Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with Pro Wrestling Logic, and we are starting a new series at the request of some of our listeners. We are starting a Superstars of Wrestling series, obviously Superstars, a 1990s, well, actually 80s and 90s series. It ran from 1986 through 1997, was rejuvenated about 10 years or so ago by World Wrestling Entertainment. But the original classic World Wrestling Federation at the time, Superstars of Wrestling, is where we're going with things, and this was requested via private message by one of our listeners slash viewers, whatever you want to call it, and so we are going to honor that request. In honoring that request, we are going to do so via kind of jumping ahead a little bit of our other series and focusing on this one at their request. If you have a series you would like to request us to cover on the channel, we are more than willing to do exactly that. All you have to do, like, subscribe, shoot a message either on Twitter. There we go. I lost my sound there for a second. Shoot a message on Twitter to @POPerception, or you can DM on Twitter, or you can just send a YouTube message. Either way, we will get to your series by request. Request trumps over anything that I want to do. So, because this is a fan-driven channel, unlike WWE currently, which is ego-driven, we are fan-driven. And so we will be doing these Superstars of Wrestling updates sometimes multiple times a day, depending on my schedule, at least once a day until what is available on the WWE Network is complete. Also, there are other video sources available across the internet for some of these. There will be gaps, obviously. The whole series not available, which to me is a shame. Most people that grew up in the late 80s, early 90s grew up with Superstars of Wrestling as the main syndicated program. And so lots of good memories for those who grew up in that era. They may not be the most entertaining shows, a lot of squash matches, but we can have fun with those anyway. Still amazing things to watch in squash matches. I haven't seen this particular program probably since it aired. Maybe I saw a version of it a little bit some years later, but it's been at least a decade, if not longer, maybe a decade and a half since I've seen this particular, since we have seen this particular program, and we move to April 18th, 1992, Superstars of Wrestling. We hear Vince McMahon and Mr. Perfect run down the matches for the day. Perfect makes fun of Easter and says the Ultimate Warrior is in danger for confronting Sid Justice. Animal and Hawk of the Legion of Doom versus Barry Hardy and Dwayne Gill. And Animal starts with an over-the-top rope power press slam that looks pretty vicious on one of the enhancement talents. And then we see Hawk with a military press slam on the other. Actually hits a lawn dart style snake eyes. Think Kevin Nash and Rey Mysterio Jr. from the NWO days on that outdoor brawl that they had. Think that, only with an enhancement talent, only making about $500 for the day. Ouch, no fun. That didn't look very family friendly either. The Beverly Brothers cut in with a promo, inset promos. Now, if you've never seen an inset promo, most people have, because they do them on the old school Raws once in a while, but an inset promo, they put a little box in the corner. In the box is usually the main adversary or rival of your talent, and they are going to yammer for about 30 to 45 seconds about how much they want to kick your tail, and then they go away. These are great, and I love them because they're little mini promos to get other people over, and it's not done so overtly that it's over the top, but at the same time, it's just enough to make you want to see an arena level match between combatants. And so, then we see the Legion of Doom hits Animal hits a massive power slam, and then they hit the Doomsday Device, their top rope finish. Perhaps one of the most interesting tag team finishes in all of pro wrestling. Many other finishes came as a result of it. The crossbody Doomsday was for the larger guys. I know that 3D of the Dudleys was influenced in their desire to be like the Doomsday Device, have a standout finish. Now you see guys doing shooting star press Doomsday Devices and all sorts of other crazy things. I know the Ugly Ducklings do a version of Doomsday Device. I believe the War Raiders now in WWE do a version upon occasion of this move. So really a groundbreaking, trend-setting move for its time. In the feature article of WWE Update or WWF Update, Randy Savage and Ric Flair are going to war. This is right post WrestleMania 8, and there is magazine proof that, or supposed proof, that Ric Flair had in fact had an affair with Miss Elizabeth prior to Savage getting together with her, sparking the old school line, "She was mine before she was yours." The photos were, however, proven to be doctored, not the doctor of style slicks, but doctor of photographs, and they show a bit of WrestleMania 8. They show Flair forcibly kissing Elizabeth, which doesn't age well in 2020, to say the very least. And then they kind of talk that through for a minute, hype more matches between Flair and Savage as their main program, and then we go back to Repo Man versus Chris Hahn. Brutal backdrop for Hahn. He gets up in the air and he goes flying and lands awkwardly. And then unique victory by Repo Man, who uses the bottom rope as a guillotine, not once, not twice, but 3 times in order to gain the victory right before taking the victory. What I find interesting is Barry Darsow, who most people would know as Demolition Smash, who later transfers into the Repo Man character, and probably, I'm curious, comment below if you can think of, off the top of your head, a mainstream level wrestler in a national promotion that had more characters than Barry Darsow. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody. Anyway, what I loved is every movement with him was in line with his character, stealth and kind of sneaky and made you think, and also his facial expressions just really over the top. If you're an independent wrestler watching or listening to this, please go and check out the Repo Man stuff, whether it be squash matches or his matches with established talent. He's really super good at having facials and facial expression mean something. Then we go to the Old School Event Center with current NWA standout announcer Sean Mooney. Mooney, a standout for most kids. Craig DeGeorge was his predecessor, but and then before that, I think Gene Okerlund did the Event Center style promos. But I think the Event Center concept, as a concept with all the monitors in the background, really cool look. If you've never seen it before, worth going to check out. Anyway, that came along in about 1980, late 87, early 88, and Mooney does this for the duration of his tenure with WWE, and really is an enjoyable thing to watch. Anyway, Big Boss Man does an Event Center promo, says there are a lot of lawbreakers in the World Wrestling Federation, and that he is going to clean up the lawbreakers, and that every time he does so, the fans, kids, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, and everybody else in between will be with him in cleaning up the World Wrestling Federation. Rick Martel promo says he is superior in every way, and he's a very, very busy man. He's busy because he's getting calls from all over the world, consulting on the fashion that people should be hanging out and trying in 1992. Getting calls from the U.S., Europe, Canada, and everywhere. Everyone looking to find him. Everyone looking to find what he has to say, right and wrong to wear, and that he is here to stay. You know, it's interesting because not too terribly long ago, probably 7 or 8 years before this, Martel was the AWA, American Wrestling Association heavyweight champion. And one of the criticisms against Rick Martel was that he was a horrible promo. And his French Canadian accent, to be fair, is kind of, it's an acquired taste. It did hinder his promo ability, but not as the model. I think when he found that model character, that model persona, he was really able to ham up the accent and make it work for him. And I think there's a lesson in that for independent talent out there. If you have a stutter, if you have an accent, if you have certain words you say weird, play it into how you cut a promo. Play it into how you present yourself, because it's so, less is more and unique is money. And that's kind of the interesting thing in this industry. Everybody tries to be cookie cutter, but if Superstars and Challenge and the syndicated programs show us anything, it's that being unique and standing out and knowing who you are really does matter. Nails promo says an eye for an eye and a life for a life, and that he's after the boss man when he gets out of jail. Of course, we all know that Nails is Kevin Wackles, who does have a feud with the big boss man later in the year. Set up with The Undertaker before he leaves, but ends up leaving under divisive circumstances as he almost gets, or does get into it physically with Vince McMahon over the SummerSlam payoff of that year. We then go to the Intercontinental Champion, Bret Hart, versus Tom Bennett. Shawn Michaels does an inset promo during the match, says that the Intercontinental Championship has lost its prestige, its value, and luster, but now that he is in contention for it, he has everything, including the polish necessary to make the championship mean something again. Hart wins the match with an elbow drop and then transfers into the sharpshooter. This is just mere weeks after his classic match with Roddy Piper, one of the better Bret Hart matches. For those that care, I'm a Shawn Michaels guy. I'm not a Bret Hart guy. I enjoyed Bret in '92 when he won the World Championship for the first time. I enjoyed him before that as an Intercontinental guy. But Bret kind of lost me in '93 through '96, save for a couple of things. And then I did enjoy Bret in '97. Did not catch on with him in his WCW run. So there's a very skewed stretch of Bret Hart that I enjoy a great deal, and the '92 run is one of them. Of course, this is in April. By October, so we're talking, 6 months later or thereabouts, he is your WWF champion. But at this point, Intercontinental Champion is what he holds. We go back to the event center for the second time. Jimmy Hart says that the Mountie is handsome, brave, and strong because he is the Mountie. Well, what else would he be? Of course, the Mountie, Jacques Rougeau. If you are new to pro wrestling and never seen the fabulous Rougeau brothers, worth your way to go out and check them out. Mountie says it's time for a new wave and a new generation. Interesting that the new generation push didn't begin until '95, but the Mountie uses the term here, and he says that it is at the hands of the Mountie, and he proved it once before by becoming Intercontinental Champion, says he'll prove it again, and that he has a surprise for the world. Jimmy Hart says don't tell them the surprise just yet. Okay, now, the Bushwhackers. If you've never seen the Bushwhackers, they are a zany bunch of fellows. Cousins, Luke Williams, Butch Miller, also known as the Sheep Herders in other territories, but they were brought in to be your cartoon characters. I don't understand what I heard in this promo. If someone wants to go and check it out and transcribe it, just because I want to know what happened to that 37 seconds of my life, please feel free to do so. They kind of promo about their mothers. They then say the fans like them, like their marching, like their look, and they're looking forward to giving the fans a lick. And it certainly was very weird. And yes, during the early 2000s, when the Bushwhackers were doing independent events, I was unfortunate enough to be licked by a Bushwhacker. I also then got 12 tetanus shots. And then we go to a Crush vignette. Crush says that he likes to crush things. Uh, we see a black and white video shot of a kid, probably somewhere between 7 and 10 years of age, crushing a can. We then go back to Crush in person, who's wearing tie dye, and he wonders what a 320-pound full-grown man is going to do now in the World Wrestling Federation. I don't understand how no one acknowledges that Crush is part of Demolition less than 2 full years before. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why they didn't. I mean, maybe he could say Demolition had been demolished, or he could say it was a pointless team, or he could say they wouldn't let him wear tie-dye. But I think they could have acknowledged that he was part of that team beforehand. And I think it would have given him more credibility coming in. I actually didn't think he came in until 93, so seeing the promos in April of 92 has me intrigued, only because my time frame was off on that quite a bit. So the Berserker with Mr. Fuji versus Mark Roberts. Now, two things to note here. Berserker is John Nord. If you've never seen Nord before, he is kind of a knockoff interest of Bruiser Brody, the late great Bruiser Brody. Very basic style, hard-hitting style. Out of Minnesota, he is from that Robbinsdale High School area, and he has a cup of coffee here in the World Wrestling Federation. Probably the most interesting angle that he's part of during that time happens next week with The Undertaker. We'll get there in a minute. But he faces enhancement talent Mark Roberts. Now, what I find interesting with that is Vince is so peculiar about names being used. There's never two Jakes, there's never two Hulks, there's never two Bobs. There's, names are unique so that he can merchandise them. And to have an enhancement talent with the name of Roberts mere weeks after Jake Roberts does the honors for The Undertaker, I think was a veiled shot. Maybe people would disagree with that, but I don't know. It felt like a veiled shot to me. So during the squash match here, Mr. Fuji says that he will have The Undertaker cremated after the Berserker is done with him. He puts out a challenge for the Berserker to face The Undertaker ASAP. Berserker, very basic offense, several kick stomps and knee drops, and then a forward falling slam. Fuji encouraging the Berserker to do as much damage as possible here, and everything is looking good. Berserker takes the victory by pinfall, which is not the way he normally did it in the majority of matches. He usually would cast his opponent out over the top rope and take a count-out victory because he's that nuts. Then we see a promo for the fan club advertisement. Fan club was a cool thing when you were a kid. They'd send you stickers and maybe a 5-minute tape of some theme music abridged, and you could get a discount on live event tickets. But it was mainly, the idea behind it was to get you on the mailing list so they could get your name and address and information so they could market to you directly. Really smart idea, and I wish more independent companies would do it today. Even with an email list, if you have that mailing list, you have a warm market of potential leads for customers to ultimately get information about your events first. You could sell out a certain section of your live event venues. Also, it's stupid to me, and if any independent promoters are listening to this, and I know you will be eventually, so just a preemptive, if you're an indie promoter and you don't do a survey at your live events, I come from a background of market research, put a survey, a one-page survey on people's chairs. What was your favorite match? What was your least favorite match? Where are you from? Do you think your ticket was too expensive, just right, or whatever? And then you give away tickets as a result of the market research. It's an easy way to do research, to learn what your target market is, learn who's over with your audience. Yes, it would take some time to compile the results. Yes, you'd have to pay someone to do that. But the value you're going to get through doing it is innumerable, and also makes you actually come across like a real business because you're trying to target market. Anyway, so we go to an Ultimate Warrior promo. Ultimate Warrior comes out with several young kids, I'd say between the ages of 7 to 10, on stage, all painted up like the Warrior. They were really trying at this point to reconnect him with the fans and kind of be a knockoff for Hogan. Hogan's on the way out after WrestleMania 8. Of course, he ended up going to WCW about 2 years later, maybe a little more than 2 years later. But at this point, the belief is Hogan is going to be gone. We don't know how long because of the steroid trial and the sex allegations trial and all that stuff. Hogan's on his way out. Warrior looks super, super lean here. That's why the rumors started that there was more than one Ultimate Warrior. Of course, these rumors are unfounded. However, that's where they came from because he looks so different here. Warrior, basically, he's out with the kids. He calls out Papa Shango, says he's not going to stand by and watch Papa Shango do damage to his friend Hulk Hogan. He calls Hogan friend several times in the promo. This makes me chuckle because they did not get along well in real life. He says there's no price too high to pay for protecting a friend. And Okerlund asks him if Sid had done any damage to him. Basically, Warrior said Sid has no friends and he needs to watch his back, and the damage he's done he will have to pay for. Alright, then we go to a break, come back, Rick Martel versus Red Tyler. Very basic match, knees from Martel early, and then, let's see, we go to a botched crossbody from Red Tyler. Tyler kind of rolls through, gets kicked off before he even lands, and then goes for a cover. I like the fact that in some WWF squash matches at the time, your enhancement talent got at least some offense. And then we see a sunset flipped attempt for the near fall again by Tyler. Then we see a backbreaker leading to the Boston Crab submission by Rick Martel. We move on to Texas Tornado versus Warren Bianchi. Never seen Bianchi before. Probably not going to see him again based on the context of this match. Man, it is so sad to watch Kerry Von Erich at this point. He'd come back, I think, from drug suspension. I could be wrong, but he's less than a year away from passing away due to his own suicide here. And if you look at his eyes and you look at the way he's walking in that television taping, he's on drug street here, I really believe, and it's just so sad. Von Erich's one of those guys who I think had he come along at an earlier time in World Wrestling Federation history, had he come along and been able to get clean, and maybe that never would have happened, but let's suppose it would have, he could have been what the Ultimate Warrior never was, because he was a better athlete, in some degrees a better talker, and really connected with that audience in a deep way. Anyway, the Texas Tornado hits a discus punch on the outside on the apron onto his opponent. Tornado says he has redirected himself and rededicated himself to his family, his religion, and his country, and the fans, and the World Wrestling Federation as a whole. He hits the spinning discus punch inside the ring for the win. Then a promo for WBF Body Stars, the World Bodybuilding Federation. That was interesting to say the very least. Money Incorporated versus Jim Powers and Buck Zumhoff takes place next. IRS reminds people that cheating on their taxes is illegal. Jim Powers, obviously a member of the Young Stallions, also perennial enhancement talent for World Wrestling Entertainment or World Wrestling Federation at the time for several years. Buck Zumhofe, who now is, at last I knew, still serving several years for sexual impropriety with his own daughter or stepdaughter. I don't remember if she's biologically related to him or not, but doing a bunch of nasty things related to her when she was a teenager and carrying on a sexual relationship with her for several years. Obviously, he's kind of persona non grata in the sport now. There's a point where Jim Powers overshoots the drop kicks and then tags in Zumhofe. Natural disasters say at WrestleMania, Money Inc. ran away, and they will not be able to run forever, and soon they will be running a lot faster because they will not have the championship belts to hold them down. Then we move to another event center promo series here. This time with, let me just look here really quickly, make sure I'm in the right, there we go. This time Owen Hart says that he is willing to shoot high and hard, says he is from a wrestling family. He acknowledges both Bret Hart and Stu Hart as his family members. And then he says he's going to shoot higher than ever before than anyone believes. Obviously, Owen hasn't found himself as a character yet. Promo is awkward. Papa Shango says that he is Voodoo, and that when the stars of the World Wrestling Federation sleep at night, they should be worried, and they will dream of Papa Shango. People will bow at the feet of the Voodoo Master, and once he enters their mind, he can enter their body. That's creepy. Astral projection on children's programming. Anyway, Undertaker says, well, actually, Paul Bearer says that Fuji and the Berserker have made a fatal mistake, but they will need to pay the price next week. And the match between the Undertaker and the Berserker is set for next week on Superstars. The Undertaker has a line about, let me find it here. Undertaker has a line about basically that let's see here. He will face his destiny and his death in the same day. That's what I was looking for. And then we see the Berserker and Mr. Fuji. Fuji says that Undertaker has fallen for his trap. Berserker says that the Undertaker is not human, and that whatever doesn't affect him makes him stronger, being the Berserker, and that he will stomp the Undertaker into dust where he came from. So that is your Superstars review for the 18th of April 1992, a long time ago. There are other places online that are doing this, but this is the only place you can get this for free. Scott Golden, Pro Wrestling Logic, reminding you, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.